There's a meme that I've really come to gravitate toward lately, and it's just a illustration of a dad sitting on a park bench. You can see his thoughts, and he's thinking about finances and the next trip he's going to take, and all the stuff that he has to do at work, and he can just see all this anxiety in his head. And then he's sitting next to his little boy, maybe 5 years old, 4 years old, just looking up at his dad, just excited to be sitting with him. So, I mean, when you're
Yes.
talking about presence, when you're talking about the little things that you can do and not outsourcing it, Jeff, I mean, I think that's incredibly important. Just get down on your knees, look your kiddo in the eye, and answer their question when they've asked it for the 20th time, because
Yeah.
that's what they'll remember, and that's how they're going to continue to move forward in life.
Well, there's a great quote. We use it in the Dad Academy book. Is that they won't become they won't become what you teach them to be. They will become who you are. Right. So our model of the way that we navigate through life, because one of the things you learn that our kids should learn from us as parents is how do you navigate conflict? How do you develop resilience and demonstrate perseverance through challenging times? How do you navigate difficult relationships? How do you prioritize your life? And that's why I really think in trying to give dads some rails to run on, I really think that a father's mission is to pass on his values and his skills to his children. And that doesn't happen accidentally. It happens through an intentional process with number one, a dad having some self-awareness about like what is important to him and what are the things that really make their family tick. And then also passing on the kind of skills that you have to your kids, because everything that we know how to do, someone has taught us. But if I can go back to your meme for a minute, one of the most practical things that a dad can do is anytime you go somewhere, throw a kid in the car with you,
Yeah.
right? Um, Opportunities going to and from practice are incredible opportunities. I'm trying to work right now. Yeah, I love that one. I love it
Yeah.
because that is what our life. That's what's in our head. Um, and it can become so lost in that. But really, the most like we talk about the statistics don't lie, and statistics on fatherhood are so unbelievably overwhelming about the importance of a presence in of a father in a kid's life, how it affects them socially, scholastically, academically, relationally. Like the it's off the charts of the impact that it has. But dads just have to understand that their presence alone is something that is significant. If that's significant, think what happens when we start to become uh,
Really
even
present.
more intentional
Yeah.
about those kinds of things in our lives.
I like your point about just bring them with you in the car. And I struggle with this. I need to work on it too. Is all right, I've got my kids in the car, but I've got this thing in my ear and I'm listening to a podcast. I'm listening to you talk, Jeff, on a lot of the things that you do. Just pull that out, make some time, ask them how their day was.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
and we would do silly little stuff at dinner, right? We were a high-low family when we sat around the family dinner
Yeah.
table, and that wasn't every night. I just to know, but like we made sure to create like a family culture that said, these kind of things are our priorities. This is the things that we are going to build our schedule and our lives around. These connecting points, these things that reflect the kind of people we want to be, right? Church attendance, family dinners, opportunities to serve as a family, vacations, all of those types of things are important in the the shaping of a family and ultimately a child's identity. And so there's so many simple things that dads can do if we just really were able to take a step back and breathe for a minute and could think about like what's really required of me. And I hope Dad Academy for some of your listeners might actually be a tool that will help them. It will give them some confidence and will give them uh, a way to think about their fathering, and help them develop a plan for impacting their family and changing it for good.
There's so many challenges that we face. We've talked about a lot of it, these external forces, these things that are peppering us and social media and things like that. Is there room, Jeff, in this crazy world of 2025 for a dad to embrace God and bring religion into his life?
I don't think there's a place to bring religion into our lives because again it can it can easily slip back into one of those more performance mode issues, right? Because for me, I grew up in this my entire life. I am what we call a PK. I'm a pastor's kid. There's a reason why there's a stereotype that most pastors' kids are kind of rebellious, and I don't know if you know this, but in our circles, that's a most kids who grew up around the church, especially if their parents were leaders, many of them don't continue down that path because they saw a contradiction in the way that publicly things were presented and the way that it actually happened behind the scenes. That's not the case with me. I'm grateful for my parents and the example and the way that they showed how our life was integrated. And so a relationship with God and some of the tools that come along with that help to shape us and help to form us are really, really important. You know that if kids go to church with their mom, only 25% of them will continue on with that as adults. If a kid grow up going to church with their dad, 95% of them will continue on with that as a part of their lives because of the example that is set. And if I can, let me share with you one of these, a very important concept to me as I get to speak into people's lives, not only in this area of spirituality and relationship with God and faith in Jesus Christ as we've been developing, but like if I was to say that an individual has integrity, we see that as a really wonderful, beneficial thing, right? That they're a person of character, they're a person of substance, that their word means something, that they follow through, right? But Ryan, I'm going to ask you, what does it mean to you when I say that a building has integrity
Yeah, I mean it's the foundation, it's the skeleton, it's the thing that keeps it upright and stiff,
and
but it's
strong?
just the shell and strong. Yeah.
So to me, right, integrity and integration, right? It's the way that the building is tied together that makes it strong. And so I want my child's life to have integrity, not just as a character trait, but as an inner strength that they can build, a skeleton that they can build their life on. In the book of Colossians, there's this really amazing verse that says, Christ is all and is in all. And what we want to see is not just a list of to-dos, right? I go to church on Sunday, I serve here, I make charitable donations here, I try to do unto others as they would have, I would have done to me. Love God, love my neighbor, all of these wonderful things. I don't want a to-do list. What I want to do is to see my faith integrated into every part of my life. the way that I handle my finances, the way that I navigate my relationship with my family, the way that I conduct myself as a business owner and as a leader, the way that I regulate my own inner life. Right? Mental health is such a challenging issue, especially among men. We've seen it grow in the last 5 years. And I think it's because men start to see that their inner structure of their life, when it's built on performance, when it's built on seeking out affirmation, it begins to scrumble, to crumble, kind of like the three little pigs, right? The wolf comes and blows the house down. Um, when our life is integrated, and one of the things that's so amazing when we have a faith conversation is that the word integrity or integration come from the root word integer, which means one or whole. And what God wants from our life, right? He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. That every part of our lives, he is integrated in. And because of that, not only do we have strength, but there's a oneness that we share with God that begins to become something that we build our lives on. Throughout the scripture, there's all types of metaphors. We want to be people who build our house on the rock, not on the sand that can be washed away, right? We want to be able to weather the storms of life. And it happens when we begin to build our lives on and around the right things. And I think that Christ is integrated in that piece. And there's some instructions for parents, even in the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy, that says the things of God, the things that are of value, you talk about them when you get up in the morning. You talk about them when you lay down at night. You talk about them when you walk along the way, right? Because faith is not just something you do, it's something that is embedded into every part of our lives. And it has to become so natural that our kids see it as a natural thing, that we begin to align our lives around those kinds of priorities. So, for instance, Ryan, if you say that you're a person growing in your faith, right? But say you got kids in club soccer, and they've got a big match on a Sunday at at 10 a.m. when that's the time that maybe your church family meets. Now you've been telling your family that, man, God is number one. He's most important in our life. And then when you have a chance to demonstrate it and you have a choice, there's a conflict. Like how a dad leads his family in that decision communicates so much to his kids, right? We always say yes to the external pressures, when I think a dad's job is to make sure that we stand strong and we say, hey, listen, we'll do whatever we need to do, but we're going to align our lives around a couple of these priorities. Because it tells a kid, like if you go to the club soccer game every Sunday and church is, every couple of weeks, what does it communicate to the kid no matter what we say about what's most important? I'm not against all that. I'm just like saying, can't we play the game at noon? Right? Can't we? Like I've had to tell my kids' coaches as high level athletes, hey, listen, we'll be there as soon as church is over.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean like there's not a special occasion when we've traveled out of town for an event, and I mean even as a senior pastor, I have to miss church occasionally, right? But what's the pattern? What's the habit? Because our behavior reflects our values.